We provide smart rental units in apartment buildings, in neighborhoods, in offices, where tenants can practically download our app and rent whatever they want.
All right. Yael Shemer, thank you so much for joining us for 20 Minute Leaders.
Thank you so much for having me, Michael.
So you're originally from Israel, but you live in New York and now you're visiting Israel.
Yeah, that's right. I'm here for a month, but I moved to New York 6 months ago.
And you moved there for your startup Tulu, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what is Tulu? Talk to me about Tulu.
So Tulu is an on-demand rental service. We provide smart rental units in apartment buildings, in neighborhoods, in offices, where tenants can practically download our app and rent whatever they want for as long as they want. So we work mainly in residential buildings in Manhattan. We also have 10 locations in Tel Aviv, some student dorms. We're now launching a location with Wix. So employees can actually rent something after work and return it the next day or for the weekend. But really our mission is to reshape the way people use and consume stuff.
Okay, so it's the idea of renting stuff. What stuff are we talking about? Is this like, it's like vacuum cleaners and bicycles? Is that the sort of stuff we're talking about?
So it's a wide range from what you really need and what you kind of want, but don't need, right. Which also makes sense to rent. So we have a Dyson vacuum cleaner, and we have a ladder and a drill and a projector and a steamer. So the essential stuff for a home, so household items, but we also have fun stuff like a VR headset, a drone, sewing machine, and we just have a very eclectic. So we always have the essential products that we know people are using, and then we also try pop-up products and pasta maker, mixer, air fryer.
So Yael, one of the key things that I think unifies all of these things together is that all of them break, right? All of them are bound to break at some point. So how does that even work? So you go to these apartment buildings, I'm guessing you have a room where you're putting in all these supplies, and then something breaks. What do you do? So
actually, when our users break something, we just ask them to tell us, and then we'll repair it. So our philosophy is to really try to repair everything we can, or to provide products that are higher quality. And we know from our users also that they rather use a really good projector, but they're buying a bad one from online because they don't want to spend the money. So our stuff don't really break. And if someone hurts it on purpose, which almost never happens, we kindly just take it and take a deep breath and understand that it's part of educating a market.
Right. So Yael, educating a market. Talk to me a little bit about this idea, and it's not very it's not very conventional. This idea that you have an apartment building and you have all the tenants share the same Dyson vacuum cleaner. So where did this come from, and what are the different challenges in sort of educating the market for that?
So actually, Tulu is ever since we started Tulu, my co-founder is Shai and I, and we have an amazing team here in Israel and in New York. People are telling us this is such a simple idea, and it had to happen. But what we're doing that is different is we're providing access to a really highly maintained household items. We're choosing our products carefully, and it's very aesthetic, and it's a product. It's something that really wants to be a part of your lifestyle and create a habit in your lifestyle. So starting from our design and our data and our marketing, everything it's just like a brand, but in your building, and it's just like a gym or a pool. It's an amenity you have, something you can use in your life in the building. But also now, as I told you, we have other ideas regarding the workplace and regarding neighborhoods around sharing stuff. But the sharing idea is not new, like you said. People tried doing peer-to-peer rentals, and what we figure is that the access economy is just makes more sense. Yeah.
So the whole idea of sharing goes back all the way to the days of the kibbutz, right? During the inception of Israel, and they say, let's share a lawnmower across the whole kibbutz. We don't need each person to buy their own. But this also speaks pretty close to what I believe WeWork started a few years ago, called We Live, right? And then others have picked up on this idea of shared living spaces, and the fact that the new generation might be more open to the idea of reducing privacy, more sharing, more social interactions. So where does that fit into this whole sort of genre and paradigm?
So actually, the meaning of Tulu is originated from Tulu, which are Chinese buildings in China. It's a very, very beautiful big structure with micro apartments that the center of it, it's a circular structure that the center of it has the kitchen, the living room. Of course, it doesn't look like what we know, but the idea is to really leverage spaces in a building where the individual doesn't need to own or to have stuff that can be shared with more people and then therefore use space better. So my co-founder is an architect and I come from a environmental background, and together we really we were really thinking hard about how come cities, people live so close to one another, and there are much progress happening in the world of rentals and co-living, like you said, but there's still there's no integration in your daily life. Like if you really want to do sharing, you have to move to a WeLive, or you have to move to kind of a prestige living situation where people living in buildings right now, they can still do that. So as you said, our demographic is mostly young professionals, people that are showed on research that are more adaptive and early adapters to the idea of access. And differently than a kibbutz, we're using an app and a state of mind where, in a kibbutz, if you borrowed something from someone and they brought it back dirty, you would get upset and you would talk to them. But now it's through us, and we take care of everything, and you pay us. So it's in a sense it's a bit easier on the user to go through the mental process of trusting a company to do that for you. But we are trying to create a sense of ownership in a rental world where if you took your vacuum cleaner, you'd want to return it clean because your neighbors are also relying on that.
Right, and I think it does also speak to a difference on, I imagine living in an apartment building and then my neighbor above my floor comes and says, "Hey, Michael, can I borrow your vacuum cleaner? Mine just broke." I'd say, "Yeah, of course, here, just grab it." If somebody on the street comes up and says to me, "Hey, Michael, can I come up with you to take your vacuum cleaner and I'll bring it back?" Probably not so much, right? So I think there is some psychological acceptance in the fact that you're sharing this living building or office with other people, and automatically you have something in common that you're more apt to share these more personal things, right? Vacuum cleaners are going on all these different surfaces, but how big does it get? So how many of these items do you actually offer to apartment buildings or offices?
Each Tulu unit has around 25 products. It really depends on the size of the building. So our average size is around 200 units. And then, we just decide how many Dyson, how many scooters, how many printers, how many...
200 units means 200 apartments in a building?
Apartments in a building. And then our metrics, as a company is to really engage with as many people as possible within a building or within a neighborhood. So we also work with Tel Aviv municipality, and we have this really cute Tulu room in the middle of Nordau Boulevard where we installed a smart glass door, and it's 24/7, and people can just come pick up folding chairs, a tent, bike carrier, sewing machine, different stuff. And then, we also calculate how many potential users we can get, and that's kind of how we think about it.
That's incredible. And that is in Tel Aviv?
That's in Tel Aviv. We have 3 locations. We have Tel Aviv, New York, and New Jersey. And hopefully in the upcoming year, we'll have some more surprises.
Incredible. So what are the biggest, challenges approaching this type of, this new market? You are creating a new market in a sense, right? I mean, this is something that's very different. And I imagine that that there is a generation gap on accepting this new customer behavior. Is there?
There is a generation gap. We've discovered that our product market fit is actually in student dorms. People that are temporary, they're renters, they're also...
I would love to use it in my dorm, yeah.
Yeah, and the average millennial moves every 2 years. So if you're buying crap you don't need, you also have to carry it with you to the next apartment because you're cheap. You're young, you're a student, you don't want to buy new stuff.
No, that's exactly my issue now. I want to come back to Israel for 6 months with my girlfriend, but I have all this crap from Stanford that I don't know where to put. So friends have graciously offered to host it, but it sucks because this is stuff that I don't need. It's probably going to go bad in 6 months sitting away. I wish I could just let somebody else use it and then come back and rent it out again for my next year. Of course, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so it's really a state of mind where as young professionals or millennials, our lifestyle are more dynamic. We're moving a lot. We don't want to be attached to things. Some people, like myself, I'm a minimalist. I really love the joy of not having stuff. It really brings me joy. But other people also find the practicality of it. And I think when we designed Tulu, our mission was to say, if we create something that's good enough, that's reliable, that rents you a suitcase when you need it, and you can rely on it, that's how we're going to start educating a market. So that's really the first stage of Tulu was for us to understand that the building, we have to be in a good location in the building. We have to be in the lobby. We have to be in an accessible place in the building. It can't just be, the roof or the basement, like for us to really engage with the tenants, but also to really learn about our demographic. It's people who move a lot, work a lot. The weekends are the strongest usually. So that's how you educate a market. You have to really be obsessed with integrating in their lifestyle. Right.
So then what are you learning about your customer behavior over this past time? What are some of the things that you've been observing?
Some stuff are easier to rent than others. Some like bikes and scooters and a vacuum cleaner and some brands.
Those are easier, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
What did you say?
Those are the easier kinds, the bicycles and the vacuum cleaners.
Yeah, because it's already happening, and you really just don't want to buy something that costs $1,000, and you really see the value for money. We rent a couple dollars an hour, and then some other stuff are just a bit more challenging in how you tell the story of renting them, whether if it's cooking products or if it's like more personal stuff that are still rentable. So I think these are some of our challenges, really learning the curve of getting enough products rented in a month, changing our inventory and making it contextual to the life of our users. If it's a PS5 that just is coming out, we'll have it. But also being aligned with our mission, which is to really always be in the frontier of rentals, and how do we make more people be adapt to it and learn about it and try it for the first time.
So, and what is the business model? So people come, paint me a picture. They come into the room, they open the app, they see a PlayStation 5, and then what happens?
And then they add credit. They can choose a plan, and then they rent it for as long as they want. And they have a ticking clock. You pay by the hour. When you're done, we ask you how it went, and we get you to rent it again.
Okay, so you self-report everything, right?
We what?
You self-report everything?
Yeah.
Okay, that's very, very cool. And then, Yael, tell me a little bit about your background. So you did quite a few projects and you led quite a few organizations prior to forming Tulu. So where did you come from?
I'm originally from Beersheba and Lehavim, which is the southern part of Israel. I moved to North Carolina for my middle school and high school. When I moved back to Israel, I became a tour guide in the army.
Wow.
I was like hiking for 2 years, which is very privileged. I fell in love with nature. Yeah, I was fascinated with nature, with everything that's happening with climate, and I decided to learn to study environmental science. And in my bachelor degree, I became an activist in the field of environmental justice, transportation. And then that's how I started learning about food waste and also fashion waste and consumption. And these were, I guess, the seeds, but only when I was accepted into a program at MIT, which is called Our Generation Speaks. We were in Design X Accelerator for 3 months, and that's how I met Ishai, my co-founder. And it was a year when I was listening to podcasts all the time about entrepreneurship, but I never really thought I would do something myself. I really thought I would go to an NGO kind of world and hopefully also become, maybe a politician. Nothing was really set, but
quite a different path.
Yeah, but I think you can be an entrepreneur in so many fields. Just the tech world is, it's where it's harvested, but you can it's a mentality. And when I met Ishai, and he's coming from an architecture background and my background, things just kind of started to make sense. And we said, let's work together, let's create something together. And we really started from the problem we were trying to solve, and not from Tulu. Like Tulu was just an evolution of other ideas we've had until we said, okay, now we know what we're doing.
Interesting. No, I think that's amazing, because I think that really a lot of entrepreneurs, they go on the different path and saying, I have this idea, I'm in love with it, I think it's a great idea, and now I'm gonna force myself to understand that there is a problem behind this idea, but going through the approach of, okay, well, the world is changing, people need to get stuff, people don't want to necessarily own the stuff, it's expensive, it's cheap, it breaks. There is a problem, and now let's find a solution to this problem. That's exactly how I want to approach a start. And what are some of the sort of earned secrets that you've learned over the past few years running this thing, that perhaps you would go back and say to your few years younger self?
Well, when we started the company, I was still doing my environmental science master's degree. And I was like, okay, I can do that and that together. It's totally possible, and I can also work. And I think the minute I realized that I have, besides committing to Tulu being my full-time thing, it's also a mentality. Like, you have to wake up and go to bed thinking about something that's really meaningful to you, and you have to commit to it. So I had to leave everything and say, okay, it's scary. It's really scary, but I have to do it. So this is the first thing I learned, that I have to really kind of prioritize this and only that. And when you build something, you can have a really good idea, but it's about the team and it's about the people you work with. And as being a co-founder or leading something, I can work 24/7. But in order for other people to be aligned with what we're doing, you just have to create a sense of togetherness, which is something we're working on.
Right.
And personally, moving to New York for that, it's so much fun to see the similarities between Tel Aviv and New York with millennials mainly. Like, we have such similar buyer personas, such similar people that are adapting and reacting the same way to our product. And I'm just fascinated with the world of rental, because I really believe that, going forward with everything that's happening in the world, and I'm not even talking about the coronavirus, I'm talking about the way we act as humans. I really think solutions that are practical, that are fun, that are sexy, that are interesting, these are the solutions that are going to carry people to be obsessed with and to want to use and to want to pay for. And we decided to do it ourselves rather than wait for someone else to do it.
I love it. So where is this going? So now you have the challenge of, okay, you have the product, you found product market fit in some areas. How do you get this now to millions of people?
Well, we're raising some money, but definitely we are much more comfortable now with what we're offering, and we know, we know where we're aiming, and we know what could possibly happen. And of course, we've been getting a lot of offers that are kind of shifting us from our original idea. But yeah, now we just want to scale. We're ready to scale, ready to expand. We're ready for partnerships. So it's been a lot of fun. Like, we're fantasizing and also doing together. So it's like, it's a lot of fun, and it's really fun, mainly talking to our users and learning what they need and how it meets them. And, some people told us, if I knew I had a tool room in my building, I would have, come like in a simpler way to live in this building.
100%.
But many times we launch after people already have their lease and they already bought everything. So I think going forward, it's going to be
This is like the chicken and the egg now, because you're entering a market that the apartments are already filled, and sort of you have to wait until the next cycle of tenants to be able to validate whether they really forgo purchasing the items and getting them for Tulu. But Yael, the last thing that I want to mention is that you have a pretty interesting way of entering this, that, most co-founders, they grew up entrepreneurial, went to study, computer science or business, and they grew up knowing that they wanted to do a startup, but it sounds like you didn't really know you're going to do a startup, right? A tour guide in the Army, environmental science. So how was that process like for you?
I remember when I had a different venture before Tulu. We were doing hydroponics on roofs with a great friend. And when I met him for the first time, he told me, I was like, what do you do? And he said, I'm an entrepreneur. And it was for me like mind blowing. What do you mean you're an entrepreneur? And he just,
Right.
it's a thing. I'm an entrepreneur. And I went home, I Googled entrepreneurship. I had to learn about it. I realized, you can study it in university. And that just kind of sat with me. And then I realized, if there's stuff or causes that you really relate to and you want to do something about it, entrepreneurship is a tool. And of course now I'm surrounded with the tech world, and I see people that they know more about it than me sometimes. But it doesn't intimidate me. It's just that this is, to create an interesting startup, you can come from a very, it's just that there's such a wide range. That's it. There's such a wide range, and I love being there in this range and having my own niche. And I've been finding lots of pleasure talking to other women from an environmental field interested in also doing something like that.
It's very, very impressive, and it's very, very inspiring. And before we leave, I have to ask 3 words that you would best use to describe yourself. I'm daring. Hardest question.
I think I'm daring.
Daring.
I'm also simple. And I'm very optimistic.
Daring, simple, and optimistic. I like that combination. Very, very cool. Yael, toda rabba. Best of luck with Tulu. I hope that next year when I'm back at Stanford, you'll already be there. So you gotta go. You gotta go quickly. and I look forward to maintaining this friendship. Thank you very much.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me. Bye bye.